Hello and welcome. My name is Danielle. I'll be your host today as we discuss Awakening Starseeds Volume 2. Today we have a very special guest with us, Thad Nagy. He's a
Very special. So special. I'm so special. It'll make your head spin.
Absolutely. As you can see, he's very special. And he's a co-author in Awakening Starseeds Volume 2. Welcome, Thad.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's a beautiful day in North Hollywood, California, which is not the same thing as Hollywood. It's up north of Hollywood, 10 miles north.
Nice. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself so people know a little bit about your background and how it is you came to work with Rada Publications?
Absolutely. So shall I start at the beginning? I was 1 year old, staring over and it was a really large crib and it was hard to see over. And that is when I first remember consciousness at a year old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. And, you know, you have these memories as a child and they kind of skip forward a little bit because, you can't remember everything, right? But
Oh.
I mean, I remember at 2 years old and my mother and my two aunts had a little a cappella group that they would sometimes perform, and they would do these harmonies together in practice. And I would sit there too and watch them perform, watch them practice and rehearse in 3-part harmony. And that's kind of how I got introduced to performance. And performance has been something that has really impacted my life in so many ways. And so at the age of 4, I was in my first play. I think at 5, I performed in front of a large crowd, singing my first songs. And I grew up backstage watching my stepdad as a professional actor. And so performance, has really, really impacted my life from the very beginning, and to this day. I'm currently, I just graduated with my master's degree in theater during the pandemic, and in last May, and won some awards for my playwriting, and I'm a television and film actor. I'm currently in some projects right now. So I've been doing live theater and music. I play piano, bass, guitar, and I sing. So I'm definitely very performance oriented. But what really drove me from the very beginning was my parents growing up. I was raised a little bit differently. So I met Rada. I met Rada when she was 4 years old, which I'm just going to totally embarrass her. Just completely to just embarrassing. I met her when she was 4 years old. She was absolutely gorgeous at 4, but I was 4 too. So, and she was 4 years old. I was 4 years old. We went to the same preschool and kindergarten and first grade. And we both lived at one time or another, we both lived at the Jagrati, which is, it's like a Hindu inspired ashram of sorts. I was the one Jewish kid in this ashram in Los Altos Hills, California. It's a ashram / ranch of sorts. And this is kind of where my mother was introduced to vegetarianism and veganism. And so I was raised very differently along with Rada. We lived in the same place for a little while. We went to the same preschool. We went to the same kindergarten. And in the 1980s, veganism wasn't that well known. It wasn't really that popular. And neither was recycling. And my mother was into both. She was into saving the planet and recycling and veganism and how to reduce your carbon footprint in early 1980s. It's outstanding, how advanced she was for her time. Mm-hmm. So, my parents I was homeschooled after first grade. I never finished second grade, and I was homeschooled from second grade to high school. I don't have a high school diploma, but I have a master's degree. So I had a very different upbringing. My upbringing was very unusual. And with that, I had a lot more time to do community service. and get involved in my communities and kind of have an understanding of what it was like to be poor and be involved with other people that were living in poverty. Um, and during my entire life, I've probably experienced almost nearly a decade of homelessness, and you'd never know it by looking at me. I'm a well-educated man. I'm a military vet. Um, so, you know, one of the things that was instilled upon me at an early age was service to community is super important, and understanding about climate change and the carbon footprint on the planet. And so, I kind of had to combine those two, those service oriented skills and wanting to figure out how to alleviate poverty and homelessness and climate change from a very early age, from like the 1980s until
Mm-hmm.
now. So those are the two primary causes that I've kind of championed my entire life. Is helping people out of poverty, lifting people up, helping people with their traumas, but also understanding that as corporeal beings we are limited in our time on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean as a species, not just as human beings. um, One of the things that I picked up in grad school was the realization that human beings really need this planet. We need this planet more than the planet needs us. And in fact, if human beings were to disappear tomorrow, the planet would be just fine. And in fact, the planet would probably be better off and would be functioning well and would heal quicker. And everything would go back to the way it was when things were not destroyed and impacted by the carbon and human footprint. So the planet doesn't really need us, and the planet will probably be around a lot longer than we will be. And this is something that I realized, you know, as souls, as old souls, yeah, we come from another place, but we have this wonderful opportunity to be here on this planet and help each other and create a larger consciousness and and not just to make the world a better place, but to focus on intelligence, which we really need help with as a human species, to focus on ideas of joy and empathy and compassion. And performance really, really helps people do that. It's a really unusual method that people use. It's called applied theater. And it's used with many different types of groups of people. And I've been doing this for a very long time, since I was a kid. I've worked with really famous applied theater practitioners and their disciples, including Augusto Boal's disciples. He traveled around the world, particularly South America and Europe and the Americas, and he worked with people that were dealing with traumatic events, natural disasters, displacement, homelessness, and he had people in performance, enact their traumas out and enact ways of being. Um, to kind of get an understanding of what they were going through and what they needed in order to repair their communities and to uplift themselves out of poverty, to express themselves to their community in a live performance. Um, Applied theater is used with um, elderly, with dementia, people on the spectrum, prisoners, people that are homeless and in poverty, artists that are homeless and in poverty on Skid Row. I've done quite a bit of work on Skid Row, and I try to go out there and do hands-on stuff like feed people, bring people clothes and basic items for hygiene that they need, especially during the pandemic because there was a lot less people doing it. And most of these people get into these situations through no fault of their own because in LA, the average a 2018 statistic was the average one-bedroom apartment was about The average one-bedroom apartment was about $2,545.
Wow.
Okay, and even at $15 an hour, working 80 hours a week, it's still not enough to make rent and food and pay your car and have basic living expenses. So the nature of the system is strangling the common man and women and common families. And so how do we express this through a means without statistics that creates empathy and compassion in people to want to really understand the problem, not pointing out that people are lazy, that they moved here because close to 85% of the people that are homeless in LA are actually people that are from here, that don't move to this state. They're people that have lived here for years,
Mm-hmm.
became homeless. And so one of the things that Starseeds are change makers. These are people that have been through the ringer, whether it's your first or second life, doesn't matter. Whatever life you've lived, whatever lives you've lived, these are the change makers. These are the people that have been through the ringer, that have come out the other side and said, "Oh, well, this is how you fix it, right?" You know, um, I had a lot of problems when I went into high school. I had been homeschooled since second grade, and I went into this school with over 6,000 people, and I just didn't know how to like interact. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what my place was. I didn't know how to compare myself to anybody else. I didn't know where I was at. I just knew that I had been through a lot and I had a lot to offer.
Mm.
And so I got into a lot of trouble. I was a party animal. I had a lot of fun, and then it hit me that I was going to be an adult soon. And that I had to somehow function in an adult world where I was just not set up for it. And so I think that's when I had been homeless as a child for a few months here and there, but living out of my mother's car for about a month one time, and another time for like 3 months, and then but leaving my mother's house at 15, and then leaving my stepdad's house at 17, and really becoming an adult at 17, and really having it was shock value.
Mm-hmm.
Having to fend for myself with no skills, no high school diploma, you know, figuring it out from scratch, not understanding what to do. And I was really still a child. And then when I finally figured out what I wanted to do, when I turned 21, right after I turned 21, I got hit by a car in 2001. And I was clinically dead in the ambulance. I was clinically dead, and they used an AED to shock my heart back into rhythm, and it worked. And they brought me back, and I woke up the next day in the hospital, and it's like this light just sucked into the retinas, this just massive light, and just seeing the ceiling as I'm strapped to a gurney, rolling down a corridor in a hospital, and no pain right off, and then the pain set in, tons of pain. I'd broken a clavicle. I'd suffered a traumatic brain injury. My brain was bleeding. Um, I had been clinically dead the night before. I was scrapes and bruises all over my body, and it took me about 9 months to heal.
Wow.
And I lost a lot of my motor skills, a lot of my speech skills. We were doing tongue twisters earlier. I lost a lot of that, and it was really hard for me to rehabilitate myself. And one of the ways that I did it was through performance.
Mm.
And being a musician, the healing, the music is so healing. Being able to act out things that are bothering you in an appropriate, safe place where you feel like people are listening and people are watching and people are being receptive, and people are being entertained by it. That has meaning. It creates meaning in the community. It creates meaning on behalf of the participants. the person that's on the stage, the people that they're performing in front of.
Mhm.
And so it just really gave me a sense of rehabilitation and a sense of meaning. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Why am I working retail? You know, why am I working customer facing, trying to sell products I don't believe in? Why am I feeding the corporate mouth? It's always hungry and it never ends and it keeps
Mhm.
on wanting more and it's greedy. And no matter how many hours I work a day, 12, 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, the corporate mouth is always going to be hungry. And what do I get? And what is it doing for me? And what is it doing for my communities? Not as much as I'd like, really. And so I was sitting there homeless, looking up at the sky in San Diego. And I have so many stories, but this one comes to mind. It's sharp and it's painful. I'm sitting there. I had my truck stolen from me, everything taken from me a number of times, and I'm sitting in my recovered truck with I had three pairs of clothes that I was able to get some new clothes, but I had no money, and I was working part time at Apple. you know, they didn't pay much back then. I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there in my car, and I literally just don't have any money. I'm broke, and I'm sitting there, and you know, for for a number of weeks, like what was it? It was, oh gosh, it must have been like 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks, I had eaten, you know, an orange, an apple, and a slice of bread,
Mm.
and I was surviving off of 2.5 weeks. And I
Wow.
was surviving off of the fountain water at UCSD, you know, University of California, San Diego. And I'm parked there in a legal spot. I have to move my car every night because I don't want to get caught, by the police for being homeless. And I'm parked there and I'm looking at the sky and I'm starving. It's been 2.5 weeks, man. I've had an apple, an orange, and a slice of bread, and I'm hungry. I'm starving. And I think I'm going to die again, you know? And, this is, now I'm in my 30s. I'm in my 30s, before I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s. And I'm wondering, I've been going to school full time, I've been working part time, and I'm still homeless and I'm still starving. And, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And then it hit me. I was raised with a sense of service, service before self. What am I doing? Go find somewhere where I can volunteer and feed people because that's where you'll find the food. And that's exactly what I did. I was on the beach one day and I saw these people in a line, these homeless people on the line being fed on the beach. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what am I doing? How can I volunteer? I'm starving too, you know? And so this is what I realized when you are so hard up and you're thinking about yourself and how hungry you are and how hurt you are. Sometimes you just need to step outside yourself and say, how can I help other people that are in the same situation get out of this?
Mhm.
And maybe you can get help for yourself. And that's what I've seen on Skid Row time and time again. These people that have nothing, been homeless for 30 years. 30 years on Skid Row. They're
That's
helping their
incredible.
neighbors. They're helping people, right? And
Mhm.
so Starseeds are change makers. These are people that have been through the ringer, that have learned how to set the trauma aside and not let it affect what they need to do in life. The Starseeds are people that are old souls that are just that have realized that they can sponsor other people and get people out of stuff. I just
Mhm.
helped a wonderful friend of mine since high school. I helped her quit smoking. She'd been smoking her entire life. I'm helping another friend quit drinking. You know, anytime I see an opportunity to go, what, I know how to beat addiction. I can get rid of that. I can help. And sometimes helping other people really just alleviates your own problems. It helps you get through the obstacles and helps you remove the obstacles in your own life. And sometimes that's okay. It's not necessarily harmful to help other people. Even if you're at a deficit, sometimes it's helpful.
Right.
You can gain mutual benefit. May all beings benefit is really the motto here, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what the Starseed change makers do. They create situations where all beings benefit. And so this is kind of what I've been doing. I've been I've been using performance my entire life as a way of creating change, empathy, and compassion, and trying to get people to understand what the real issues are. The real issues are that people that are in poverty are not most of them are not in poverty because they're not working. They're working in part-time, full-time jobs.
Right.
A lot of them are working. Most of them are not lazy. Some of them have had their identification stolen. They don't have the means to get new identification. Some of them, are families that just, in the last housing crisis lost their homes. A lot of these people, most of these people are people that are hardworking, good people that are just the victims of the system. And with a little bit of help, they are able to get out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm trying to create awareness and create thoughtfulness and create compassion and get people to think with their hearts and minds to
Mm-hmm.
see how this affects all of us. It affects our businesses. It affects the neighborhoods in which we live. It affects all of us. It affects a family member that we know that's going through it.
Right.
And if we understand what's going on with people, we can help. We can do something. We can be the priority in our community, and not just let it go by the wayside and let the government deal with it.
Right.
Because you see how well that's worked. When we as community members step in and we do something about it, things change overnight. And just the same thing with climate change. It's just saying you can just decide one day, hey, I'm not gonna use straws anymore. I'm just gonna stop using straws. I'm gonna stop using single plastics. I'm gonna think ahead. I'm gonna, start making my own meals, stop going to fast food. It's better for you, it's better for the environment, it's better for the animals, if you think about it all the way down the line. And so these are choices that we just have to make as Americans, as patriotic Americans. A man who has served my country, I am very patriotic, but I think that we can do better. We can do better as Americans to save our country and to promote the well-beings of our neighbors and our family members and our friends. And so this is really, this the things that I've been through in my life, the hardships that I've been through, the many hardships that I've been through, nearly a decade of homelessness, going through traumatic brain injuries, broken bones, and all kinds of stuff. These traumatic experiences, you know, being in the military during two wars, these traumatic experiences are life lessons that are designed to be turned into a positive later on, you know, to help others. A story is no good if it's not told.
Right.
You
There's a
know,
lot of resiliency to everything you're saying. As a star seed, you're a game changer. This is what we do. We come here to, you know, serve and awaken individuals who may have a victim mentality. I mean, you could easily turned it into that, but you didn't. You chose to take accountability, and I'm sure you had some hard times, but at the end of the day, you overcame that and you persevered through it, which is exceptional and amazing because that's such a, in my opinion, that's like a leadership quality. So I see you like as a ambassador of, a starseed ambassador for sure. And I know you kind of actually answered my question already about what this word starseed might mean to you. Um, but could you give us a little bit of a sneak peek into what your chapter is about for volume
sure.
two?
It kind of goes over my history. It's a really unusual history, but I think there are bits and pieces that a lot of people could relate to. You know, whether it was growing up in the ashram slash ranch that Radha and I both grew up in at the age of 4 and 5, 6, or um, learning about how sacred our planet is from an early age, learning about cultural diversity and how important it is to understand other cultures and ways of thinking, and to think about how you can incorporate those wisdoms into your own philosophies. Um, you know, uh, I've lived in several states and I've traveled 47 states. I've been to numerous countries, and and just in March I traveled 28 states plus DC. Drove there within a 2 week period. Every year, almost every year I go and I travel around the country, and it really gives me kind of a general aura and understanding of what's going on in the country and how people are living, um, and what, talking to people and asking them questions, like what's going on in Alabama right now. I mean, does anybody know? Well, you would if you went and visited every once in a while. And that's what
Right.
I do. I do this once a year at least.
Wow.
I go around and I visit people and I talk to people. And so I know people in almost every state in this country. And I lived in the Northwest for a while. My stepdad lives in Seattle. My mom lives in Oregon since 1992. I've got family on the East Coast. I lived on the East Coast for about 5 years, just south of the Mason-Dixon line. I lived in a predominantly African American community and went to Delaware State University for a while, which is a historically Black college. So I was, again, one of the few white kids, in an entire college, very underfunded school. But the community was amazing, and they welcomed me and they treated me with kindness and compassion and respect. And, I wasn't used to that. It was
Y-
kind of neat. And
You're
then
like a citizen of the world.
traveling
Starseed.
really gives you an idea of what
Mhm.
goes on, because America is a very culturally diverse country with many
Yes.
ways of thinking. And when you live in a bubble, like California is a bubble. Everybody admits it. It's its own bubble. But when you get out of that bubble, you really start to open your eyes and see where other people are coming from. Oh, I understand why you think the way you do. You might
Hmm.
be wrong, but I understand it. I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
Minnesota, great place. I just got back from Minneapolis. I had a stage reading in one of my plays in Minneapolis. It was wonderful. I loved it. Um, you know, uh, this country is just so incredibly diverse, and even more so, it's a big melting pot out here, but you go to different cultures around the world and you see that Americans, I love this country, but we're a little bit behind in a lot of ways. You
Yeah.
know, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of inner work to do to help each other and to create a better environment for ourselves to be in, right?
Right. I
And
agree.
and we only have this planet for so long, and then we'll have ruined it for ourselves. So we have to figure out how to keep it. The planet's
Exactly.
going to be here way longer than us. The question is, are we? Are we going to have to move into a different realm where we can no longer exist as human beings? And that would be really sad. It would be really sad for our species to go extinct because of the destructive path that we are on.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
this is really about telling stories. This book is about telling stories, um, and you know these are really amazing true life stories about real people that have gone through really difficult things and have come out the other side, and they're sharing with you, and it's amazing. I've been so excited because I thought, I don't know, like, how am I going to describe this in a way that men can relate? Are men gonna like see me as this funny guy, because that's what they see me as normally when I do comedy? Are they gonna see me this funny guy in this book? Are they gonna see somebody that's actually being really genuine and trying to share some of his life stories in order to say, hey, I look what I've been through. If I've been through this, I'm sure you can get through whatever you're going through, and maybe
Absolutely.
get some insight and get a better footing.
Yeah. And I think it's good too that they see you from that perspective. I mean, that's your true authentic self. I mean, that's an experience you went through, and I think a voice, sharing a story is, sharing your voice, no matter how people perceive you. But no one really knows everyone 100%. There's different. I always say there's different versions of someone as they age, from youth teenager, adult, and even as an adult, as you evolve and expand your awareness in life and you expose yourself to, in your case, like different cultures and diversities, it opens your mind. I mean, it just, and at the end of the day, the core root is to connect, and say, hey, like empathy, I've been there, maybe you haven't, and you're just there to support them and be a catalyst and help them along their journey. And then you learn, in a you learn through their experience without having to experience it, which a lot of people, you know, are wise to do so, but a lot of people aren't. You have to learn through trial and error. And I think both are just as respectable.
A mutual a friend of Rada's and mine once told me, people don't change. And it shocked me to the core. I was like, wait, what do you mean people don't change? Of course people change. And, I mean, there's always some truth in statements like that. I mean, a lot of people don't. So like a lot of people, but
Complacent.
yeah, but we do know that the only thing constant in the universe is change.
Right.
So you have to change. And if you don't, you're fighting the elements
Mm-hmm.
hardcore, and you're going to suffer if you
Yep.
don't change. You have to grow. And so,
Resistance. Yeah.
yeah, and as they say in Star Trek, resistance is futile. You know,
Totally is.
it
Yeah.
is totally true though. And
Yeah.
so you look at your growth and look, everybody's at a different level. I'm not claiming to be better than anyone. I'm just saying, like, we all have to grow. We have to change. And a lot of that has to do with you.
Yep.
How much are you willing to grow and change? You have to do it. I'm nowhere near the same person as I was when I was a teenager.
Right.
I'm more like I was when I was 4 now, more than ever, which is funny because I'm a lot wiser and I seem to know a lot more, right? No, I know less than I ever have in my life. And that's the truth, because the more I learn, the less I know. And so,
That's right.
going through and I'm realizing, you've got to change. And so it's really up to each person. We're given this gift, free will. We have the opportunity to change as much as we want to and grow beyond
Mm-hmm.
our limits. And so this is what I've been kind of trying to get a lot of people to see is that, if you are stuck in something that's just ruining your life,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol or cigarettes or toxic relationships or obstacles in your career, if something is stopping you from achieving what you're supposed to be doing in the world, whatever that may be. You could be a mailman, you could be a rock star, whatever it is that you think you're supposed to be doing. If you know what that is, well, you're ahead of the game in the first place. But then you just really need to learn how to grow and grow into that. And of course, I'm doing that too. I'm doing that right now. I'm doing that right now as we speak. So it isn't an easy process. It doesn't happen overnight, but little steps get you there. And removing
Right.
those obstacles in order to get there is so important. And so growth is so important. We have to change. If we do not change as individuals, as a species, I hate to say it, but the outlook isn't looking good. So, I want to see positive results in souls. I want to see positive results in people's lives. I want to see people suffer less. I
Right.
want to see people contribute positive, meaningful things to the world, to the universe. And I want us to prove to the universe that we are an intelligent species, that we do matter, that we could make a difference, that we're bringing enlightenment into the universe. We're bringing light into the universe, but it's just a matter of how we're going to do it.
Right.
And that's so important to bring light out there, bring light into darkness. That's one of the things one of the reasons why I joined the military is because I wanted to bring light into the darkness. And I realized at a certain point, like, geez, that's an impossible feat. It's kind of hard to bring lightness into an environment that's designed to destroy and kill.
Right.
But I did anyway, in my own way. I just realized that I was glad that I joined, and I was also glad that I left, and that I was meant to do other things. And so,
Yeah.
this whole process has just been really exciting for me. Rada Publishing has been extremely supportive in allowing me to tell my story. Um, the whole staff is just really great. Really encouraging. Sometimes it gets to the point where I feel like my ego is just huge. It's just massive. It's just my head is so big already, to tell people that I'm such a kind human being and a good soul is just like, wow, like it feels good, and I think it's something that I'm learning that other people need to hear too.
I
When you
agree.
hear things like, you have an inspiring story, your story is really great, you're a good soul, you have a good heart, things like that, when people mean them, it feels really good, and it also perpetuates that very thing that they're saying. It leads you to want to do that, and so the process has been very encouraging. I originally started out with like something like over 13,000 words, and then I just was like, gosh, I don't know what to say because there's just so much, and I've got like a catalog of literature I've written, and what do I put in here, and how do I make this interesting, and is it even interesting, and all these things, and then I whittled it down to 6,000 words, and I'm emailing Rada. I'm like, hey, I've got 6,000 words. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it down, and then she's like, well, just send it. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to send this. So I whittled it down to 3,000 words, and then she's like, you can just send it now. And I'm like, okay. So I send her about 3,500 words, and they just kind of work with me, and we whittle it down together, and it was really wonderful how it came out. And I'm really excited for people to see it. But more importantly, I'm excited for people to read the whole book and the first book too, because these stories are so great. They're
Hmm.
true story. Like I said, they're true stories about people that have really accomplished amazing things in life, but started either way behind the starting line or experienced such amazingly, incredibly difficult obstacles along the way and somehow just overcame them. And sharing these true stories is very inspiring on how they did that. And the world is going to be able to read these short stories from these authors and gain inspiration and maybe see what can work in their own lives, and grow and change and be better people, and learn that there's more than just one type of love, that there's many different types of love, and it's okay to use any one of those for wherever you deem appropriate to make the world a better place and create change.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that you will hear you in maybe future, you know, volumes, because I know that this is an ongoing series and it's phenomenal. I mean, just some of the experiences that I've, you know, heard and read through. I mean, it's just phenomenal. What would you tell anyone who's looking to reach out to Rada Publications? Would you encourage them to partake, to be author?
When
How
you're
would
ready, when you're ready, I confess, in the first volume, Arata reached out to me. She was very kind, and I told her, in my own way, sometimes I can just be really honest and abrupt, and people don't find that funny. And I don't know why, because I think I'm pretty funny, but it's just like sometimes I just, like at the time I was just dealing with like the impossible. I was literally producing miracles, and and I felt like she was asking me to produce another one. I'm like, what? Why? I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. And I think I might have offended her right off the bat, because there's some really incredible people in the world, and sometimes people, let's say you're one of those people like I don't know, Jim Carrey, who's been through a heck of a lot, right? And he's come out the other side, and he's tried to figure out ways to inspire people on his own, even battling with severe depression, and identity. His own idea, he lost his identity. That's really tough, you know and so when you lose a sense of who you are, or you're not able to portray that to the world, that's a really tough thing to go through. But some people are just going through so much. And so what I'd say is, if you feel like you have something valuable to share, that you feel like is a game changer, that might help change people's lives, write it down. It doesn't have to be much, but you'll be surprised if you spend 15 minutes a day writing something of value, just 15 minutes a day. In a couple weeks, you'll have something pretty substantial. And in, let's say in a year, you'll have a book of your own. I've already written a couple books and I'm trying to get them published. And I'm telling you, if that's all you need, 15 minutes a day. And I highly recommend that people contact Rudder Publishing, and if they have something valuable to share with the book, submit. You know, she's always looking for amazing stories, incredible people that are really making a difference in the world, that are change makers. And if you feel like you might be one of those people, like she had to convince me. I was like, I don't know. I mean, what do I have to offer? You know, I was one of those people. Like, what can I share that would be of meaning to somebody, that they could use, that would be of benefit? You know, or am I just going to sit there and talk about myself and how, you know, what an amazing actor and singer and, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? Like it just seemed kind of like, what am I supposed to say that would really be helpful to people? You know? And so when I had something, I said, okay, yeah, you know what? I approached her at her book signing and I said, you know, I want to buy some of your books and I want to give them away to my family and friends. Is that okay? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, really? You know, and that was the day that I was doing the festival for Skid Row artists, where, you know, we have a lot of the Skid Rowdians, the Skid Row people, artists that are homeless, and they have a whole day, a festival where they get to go up and perform and sign up and
Wow.
express their talents to the community. And it's amazing. It's an amazing festival. You got drumming and singing and storytelling and all, you know, painting and all kinds of stuff, you know. And some of these artists were famous at one point or were rich at one point and lost it all and are back trying to show the world their talents and have been through the ringer. So I was literally volunteering at that festival, helping set up and tear it down and help run it. And then on lunch, I skedaddled over to the book sign. And I'm like, hey, Rada, can I just, you know, can I just get a few of your books and do this? And then we just wound up hanging out, and, you know, and then from there we started talking again, you know, and 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 then I realized, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff I've been writing for the last few years, and it's just piling up. Why don't I share something? Yeah, maybe I have something of value. And that's really what it comes down to. Is this book is just some incredible human beings that have a lot of valuable things to say, and if you read it, you're going to like it. It's a fun book. It's a really fun book to read.
It is. There's a lot to learn, and it just really makes you realize like how connected we are. A lot of the experiences are unique, but at the same time so relatable on some level. You know, it doesn't have to be extreme exactly like that person, but there's just a realization that as humanity has been evolving, it's also been disconnecting people from what's most important. And I get really, on a personal level, I've seen a lot of the homeless in California. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I get really sad for just humanity in general because there's more than enough for them. It's just unfortunate that we comply to a certain standard and accept it because this is how our societies ran. But at the end of the day, there is more than enough food. There's more than enough resources. There's empty homes. So it's really disenchanting when you want to see the magic in life and you want to be that loving, but all you got to do is, like you said, get outside of yourself, go out, do what you can to help serve, be an example, help your community. I mean, you've been such a phenomenal example of that, so I just want to thank you. I think what you're doing is amazing and hopefully inspires someone that watches this video to think, you know what, I have been really selfish thinking about myself. I'm going to get up and go do something different today and find that happiness, you know, within themselves and maybe inspire them to share their story. Because sometimes too, you're scared to share a story because you think, well, why me? You know, you have that whole mentality, but everyone's voice matters. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, because of the pandemic, I think you know, we're approaching near 70,000 homeless people in LA County, the largest in the country, and
wow,
largest population in the country, and it's growing. You know, other cities like New York have done a pretty good job of treating it, but we have not. And you know, it's not that there's not enough. Like you said, there's plenty of resources. You know, and there's plenty of housing available to house people. You know, there are more empty apartments and houses than there are homeless people here. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that socialism is the answer. What I'm saying is that we need to stop exercising the worst parts of capitalism. And if we're going to exist in this capitalism arena, if
Mm-hmm.
we're going to participate in this, then we need to exercise the best parts of capitalism
I like that. Yeah.
as individuals, as responsible citizens,
Right.
as people recognizing that's an issue and figuring out what we can do in our own communities to help.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's something really small, and it doesn't even mean just going and giving money to a guy on the street. It doesn't mean that, because I don't even do that, you know. But I think there's a lot of ways that you can get involved in your communities and curb this homeless problem, and and curb poverty and curb climate change and pollution in our communities, and you know, that's a start. Those are the things that we're really facing, that humanity is really severely facing right now, and we're not doing as good of a job as we could. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, part of that inner growth is reaching out to somebody else and saying, how can I help you grow too, and how
Mm-hmm.
can I help you get to the spot where you want to go. And it's so satisfying to me. That's you know, a lot of people are healers. I'm not a healer. What I do is I say, hey, look, I this is what I've been through. These are the tools that I have. Hey, and I recognize, I see your tool bag over there. I recognize you got some tools in your tool bag, and I want to show you something that I learned on how to use that tool a little bit better, and maybe it'll work for you, you know. And if you do it that way, let me know what the result is, and if it works, can you share it with somebody else, you know? And that perpetuates healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to teach people how to heal themselves, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be the one to take on their pain. I got enough stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, definitely be your own guru. I mean,
Yeah.
empower the people. That's the thing. We want people to feel empowered. We want to create change. And the only way to do that is to start with yourself. And, you know, I like that for you, your big mission as a star seed is to be a change maker and to empower the people while supporting them, because people do need support before they're totally within their power. Because sometimes, you know, it could be mental, emotional, physical. So when you're there for someone, you may not be like certified practitioner in any specific modality, but you are being a healer in the sense that you're being there for your brother and sister, and you're saying, hey, like I'm holding space for you while you do this, and I'm going to help you along the way. So yeah, that's phenomenal. What do you have coming up next for you? What are you currently working on?
Well, right now I'm in a television project. It's at the end of the month. I'll be working on that for a number of days. You know, it's one of those things in the business I can't really talk about the TV projects, especially if they're large budget projects.
Okay.
Uh, and
Yeah.
and and truthfully, they don't give us a lot of information because they don't want anybody to know. You know, and then what happens is, you know, you cross your fingers and you hope you make the cutting room floor. I mean, that's what it, you know. So, you know, I've been in a lot of stuff. I get paid for it, and I use that platform to try to talk about social issues and things that are important. So, you know, you see my Instagram and my social media. It's not huge, but it's large enough where, you know, I can use that platform to raise money, which I often do. So, you know, it's a way to make a living. You know, it's not, I never said that like acting was my passion or anything. I love doing it. I love doing it. But really what my passion is just being service oriented and getting involved in my community. That's really what it's about. You know, I went to grad school and got my master's in theater, but you know, I did it because I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to talk about certain things that really matter, and wasn't to be a star, you know. So you got to figure out how to use those tools in order to do what you're passionate about. You know, I love music, but you know, I don't like music that doesn't say anything. You know, I like music that has meaning, that talks about emotion and social issues and important things, right? And so that's what I like to do, is I like to make music that talks about those things. So when I'm listening to songs, I'm constantly listening to the message. Well, what is the message that's being told here? And you know, and that's what, you know, that's what art to me is about. Is conveying a meaningful message, and And so that's what it's really about to me. And so sometimes I make money and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I wind up working for free because the cause is so great and the message
Hmm.
is so important that to me is better than money because it's impactful to more people. And
Right.
so I'm constantly working on all kinds of projects. Because of the pandemic, of course, things really it made it really difficult to put on live theater. But that will change, and I'll be doing some live theater productions, and so I'll be doing some casting. I'll be looking for people that have dealt with a lot of trauma to cast in my place coming up. And I'm always looking for a diverse crowd, people from all over the world speaking different languages, all shapes and sizes and colors. And so I'm always looking to make my cast as diverse as possible, just because it creates a better messaging and gives more people a voice on and um, a better perspective of what's really going on in the world.
Hmm.
Not just an American perspective. So it's really exciting to get all these kind of people from all over the place and create art, create theater, create music, create meaningful messaging, and that's pretty much what I do.
That's exciting. Do you have like a website we can link below for everybody?
I do have a website. I'm also a realtor, so I try to get people into homes.
There you go. That's actually fitting.
I try to make it,
Yeah.
kind of fits in with my messaging. I do have a
Mhm.
website. Right now, it's probably best just to contact me on social media because I check my social media daily. But you can reach me at rockandrollmusician@gmail.com. That's ROCK, the letter NROLL, rock and roll musician @gmail.com. Or you can just type in my name, Thaddeus Nagy, THADDEUS. Last name is Nagy, and is in Netherlands, AGEY. Thaddeus Nagy. That's my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that stuff. I have the same handle on everything. You can just Google my name and contact me any way you like. And I'm always happy to collaborate. I get really excited meeting new people that are interested in the same stuff.
Yeah, we'll definitely be sure to link your information below too, so people don't have to write too fast. But I really appreciate you being on this planet as a star seed. I think that you fit perfectly in Awakening Star Seeds and the mission that you're working on for to help our consciousness raise as a society. So thank you for the work that you do, and I'm super grateful to be here with you today, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Danielle, for this opportunity. And I'm just so looking forward to the book coming out and people
Yes.
reading and hearing the feedback. So excited.
Yes. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.